So we have season 1, episode 5, The Best of Smallville, which is a really confusing title considering the seminal Superman TV show is called Smallville.
Yeah.
And that's no disrespect to Lois and Clark, the further adventures of Superman. It's just the truth. So this one is interesting. The Harvest Festival comes to Smallville. Jonathan is upset as Eliza breaks up with him. As Jonathan acts out from yelling at Clark about moving back to Smallville, to drinking at the festival, Clark is reminded about the last festival before he decided to move to Metropolis. Sharon comes back to the Smallville Gazette with her son Derek, who claims he was in a coma and has suffered from memory loss. Chrissy is immediately suspicious and tracks down Derek after fire breaks out at the Smallville Community Center, which Derek himself caused due to struggling with powers like tag. Meanwhile, Captain Luthor introduces himself to Lois as Marcus Bridgewater and offers to help Lois with her investigation on Edge. Chrissy finds Derek with Larr, re-exposing him to X-Kryptonite radiation to stabilize his powers. Marcus tries to destroy both Derek and Superman, but only Derek is mortally wounded. Lana presents a bench to the town that serves as a memorial to Martha. Marcus sees Lois happy with Clark. Why are they calling him Marcus?
Yeah.
So Alex Luthor sees Lois happy with Clark and is reminded that the Lois on his Earth, who is his wife. After a date at the festival, Sarah and Jordan decide to remain as friends. As Jordan is walking away, he's attacked by Tag. I want to talk about the Alex Luthor stuff first. When he's trailing Superman and Derek in the RV, just the sheer analytical math of how he kept up with them was super impressive, right? The computer is like, if you keep on this heading for 30 seconds, you will intercept them. Yeah. And then he has a freaking bazooka that's able to knock them both out of the sky. It was beautiful. It's just like it showed, like, you know, we talk a lot about story and show don't tell. It showed us why he is a formidable foe. That was a lot of alliteration.
Hey, nothing wrong with alliteration.
For Soups, right? Because he's got this, you know, Skeets type computer from his dimension helping him, you know, do all of this stuff. And I thought it was a really good job of showing the kind of peril that Clark is in with a man like this chasing him and not knowing really because to Clark it's just some guy, just another villain. He doesn't realize how capable he is. And then to top it off with the reveal that he was married to Lois, that Sam was his father-in-law.
Yeah.
I thought was really kind of cool.
Yeah, I thought that was a nice, and it actually strengthens kind of the resolve he has to, you know, to take down Superman before he turns bad or what have you or whatever. We're assuming that Superman turns bad. Again, this is one of those things where I like looking at it from a different point of view because, you know, you have unreliable narrators. He's an unreliable narrator because we're only getting it from his perspective. Right. We don't know exactly, and I like that. You know, it makes him, he's obviously the antagonist, but he's not. I like it that he's not doing it for selfish gains in the sense of I want more power, so I need to kill Superman. No, he's doing it from the sense that this guy is going to be a threat. I need to do something about it.
Well, and we get the added caveat that he's legitimately protecting the woman that he loves.
Yes,
regardless of how she feels about him.
Right.
Yeah, I really liked that, and I like that going into a cliffhanger with, you know, 8 weeks off to see what happens. That was really good. Chrissy getting her Lois Lane on in this episode was interesting. I was expecting her to die.
I was too, actually.
Especially knowing that this was a cliffhanger episode. I was expecting her, to die or to get infected with X-Kryptonite. I thought that might have been a thing too.
Yeah, when she was running back to her car after, you know, catching Larr and was Derek.
Yeah,
I was like, oh, she's gonna get stomped.
Yeah,
I thought for sure she was going to get stomped.
So, well, I thought maybe she was getting burned because they both have the heat vision, or the laser eyes, as the boys call it. Yeah, that woman who plays Sharon is really gets on my nerves for some reason. Like, it's like I don't know why anyone helps you. But yeah, I liked that. I liked I mean, like, this wasn't the strongest episode. No. Again, like, you know, like last week, you know, these weren't as strong as the 2 previous episodes in the pilot. But they're still really good. Yeah. Especially for a CW show, because if you're grading on a curve,
most CW shows that are not just filler, but when CW shows are bad, they're really bad. I mean, really bad. And this one is, I won't even call it bad. It's just not as strong as its predecessors.
It's still good.
Yeah.
Like, that's the thing.
It's
still good. And it's got me engaged. And it ended on a way where it's like, damn it, I have to wait this long. So yeah, that was really good. The rallying of Smallville was very interesting, and I think they were trying to do a commentary on Middle America, like, you know,
people,
small towns coming together. Mm-hmm. I don't think they got it quite right, having grown up in a small farming community that has now become like a much larger, diversified community with a lot more advantages and things like
kind of like Cobra Kai.
Kind of like Cobra Kai. But I thought they really tried, mm-hmm. right? They really tried to show like how this town festival is important to the community and important to the growth and important to making sure that everybody is taken care of. Mm-hmm. And the fact that Derek, purposely or inadvertently, it to me, I couldn't really tell if he purposely did it or not. I think he just couldn't control his powers.
Oh yeah, he couldn't.
He just went into the wrong room of the church.
Yeah.
You know, and burned all this stuff up. But then to have Morgan Edge swoop in at the last moment.
Yeah.
Like, that's where they lost me, because again, these people are, if it's a small community like they show it as, and it's not like Sunnydale where it's going to just be ever expanding and like all of a sudden Smallville you know, it's just, I don't know, it was just like, you know, it just seemed really disingenuous. And I get what they're trying to do with Morgan Edge, but at the same time, I feel like these people would have found a way.
Yeah, I think that's where this fails in this, because I knew that they were going to bring, when Lana is saying, "Oh no, everything's okay now," I was like, they're going to bring the Morgan Edge thing in here.
Yep.
Which, again, if you wanted to show a town like that, if you wanted to send the message that these people stick together, these people in times of strife can come together and do things that they can't do alone, you would have kept Morgan Edge out of this. But I know they're really trying to, you know, solidify him as this villainous, you know, billionaire guy who obviously he has ulterior motives, which I'm curious in what his ulterior motives are.
Yeah.
I hope it's not as cut and dry as it seems. I really hope it's something a little bit deeper.
If it's just X-Kryptonite, it's
right.
Again, that single dimension mustache twirling, villain in air quotes.
Yeah, and again, I'm one of those. I like, for the most part, in my villains, to have at least an understanding of where they're coming from. And again, when people mistake understanding for agreeing. No.
We got that last week with Thaddeus Kilgrave. Mm-hmm. In the 2.5 minutes of screen time that Brendan Fletcher had, like, I feel like we understood what Thaddeus wanted, what his beef with Superman was, and how he's going to use Intergang to get what he wants.
Right. Yeah.
Plain and simple. But yeah, I mean, Morgan Edge in this instance is the homeless man's Lex Luthor.
Pretty much.
Plain and simple.
Yeah.
It's like, come on. Like, he's the tokenized Lex Luthor with hair. So let's just put it that way.
That's funny. I didn't even think about it. It's so obvious too. Like I didn't even think about that.
Yeah.
In that regard. So
yeah, like Lois, I didn't feel like Lois had a lot to do in this episode,
No.
other than to just be supportive of everybody, which is fine. I mean, you know, if that's how you're gonna use Bitsy Turlock, great. I think she's, as we've seen through the rest of the season, she brings so much more to the table. Like the date night from last week, I think was an amazing example of why she's Lois Lane. And then giving Chrissy the Lois Lane, again, the homeless woman's Lois Lane moments this week. I just feel like it would have been so much more powerful if Lois was covering that, because I think it adds a different kind of stake to it, because she knows what that means to Superman and Clark's safety.
And I will say this, if I like that Chrissy forced herself to get out of her comfort zone, but I think it would have been stronger if they would have waited to do something like this with just for her character, not this situation, but for her character a few episodes down the line.
Yeah. Or maybe even in season 2.
Yeah.
Like, she's a Lois Lane fangirl for sure. But, you know, and Chrissy's a fine character. It's just we don't know enough about her. And then to throw her into this situation, it felt, like you said, unearned. You know? Clark versus... Well, okay. I told you my favorite thing about this episode is Superman Nerd Dad.
Yeah.
And that's the subtitle. The Nerd Dad version of Superman is my favorite version of Superman. The way he dealt with the boys in this episode was great. I mean, with getting Jordan to love Smallville, and it's not just because of Sarah. I mean, it's because of that, and then understanding, being able to empathize with Jonathan, and then when Jonathan's like, "What do you know?" He told him the proto Superman story, where he was stopping crime in Smallville, and how he was told by his mom, who is not a monster version of Martha Kent, Diane Lane, pay attention. She was like, you have to go help people. You're meant for greater things in the world.
So it's not, you don't owe these people anything.
No. See, that is where the Snyderverse fails me.
And
the fact that the foundational moral characters of Superman and of what is the cornerstone of the shared universe are literal monsters. Yeah. Let the kids die, Soups.
And it's funny because you know how much I love Man of Steel, and that's, anytime you say that, I'm always like, yeah, you're right.
Well, when I said it to you the first time, the look on your face was great because you did not see it that way.
Yeah, but you know, then thinking back, it's like, I mean, and again, if we want to get on, you know, the allegory of who Superman is, this, you could not have parents to do that.
Right.
But one of the things I liked in this episode too was Jonathan has been has been Jordan's pretty much biggest fan. He's been there for him. And I'm glad that, you know, they made this partially about him in the sense of the issues he's having to deal with, that he is not, you know, he's a teenager and he is having trouble, his girlfriend dumps him over the phone. Yeah. Which, you know,
in school, like in the first bell.
Yeah.
And I think the other thing to think about is when they were in Metropolis, Jonathan was Superboy. Mm-hmm. He was the star. He was the popular one. He was QB1, you know. He was Matty Saracen.
Yeah.
Right? He came in and he stepped up. And here in Smallville, he's just another kid who's making a lot of bad choices. And, you know, I thought it was great of Clark to recognize, like, hey, he's acting out for this reason. Mm-hmm. I'm going to do the right thing and give him a break and not just dig into him.
Yeah, because even I love that scene where, you know, when Jonathan comes in and he apologizes, and you know, when Clark says, you know, this is your freebie, and then Lois kind of looks at him like, it is.
Yeah. But like a good partner, she doesn't tear him down or, you know, take away from his decision making and undermine him. She supports him outright.
Yeah.
This is why they're an amazing couple. This is why when Dan Didio took away all the husbands and wives from characters in the comics, this is why you have these relationships, because you have these godlike beings, and then you have them married to mortals, mere mortals, and that's what grounds them. That's what humanizes them. That's what makes like an aspirational character like Superman accessible, and not like the comic I was telling you about where
I read that
Superman is. You read the book, or you read about it?
I read it.
Yeah. So, Superman Red and Blue, if you guys don't know, came out last week, and Superman is fighting in a fake Soviet bloc country, freeing people from a concentration camp, internment camp, and this country magically has synthetic kryptonite, and I think it was the 80s. And they depower Superman, and they keep him captive and torture and rape him for 8 months. And it's like, why would you do the person who wrote that? I'm not even gonna say their name, because they should not be allowed to write existing IP anymore, because they have a fundamental lack of understanding of who and what these characters are, and they have a fundamental lack of what makes comics special. If you want to write your own weird, perverse shit,
make your own comic.
Make your own stuff. And I don't care if it's an anthology. I mean, it's as bad as the guy in the Black Lightning anthology who was talking about Superman is racist. He only saves white people. Superman is an Anglo-Saxon superhero. Is he? Is he? Does he? You know, you're projecting. It's like the Children of the Atom, that lady projecting and putting herself in and making the worst possible tokenized versions of every character.
And it's a fundamental lack of creativity and vision.
Well, it's, again,
and imagination.
We're going to invoke the name of the great Eric July. They're creatively bankrupt.
100%.
I mean, he had a great video today as we're recording this. Was it today or yesterday?
Today, or I don't. So, I watched it today.
It was either on Thursday, March 25th, or Friday, March 26th. Young Ripa 5'9" had a great video about manga is taking off. And manga introduces new characters that get over all the time, and DC and Marvel can't do that.
Yeah. And what happens, like, so I actually just was last week, I think I read one of the manga writers had another series coming out, and they cut it because, you know why? The series before that didn't sell. Yeah. But yeah, to your point, that's why I love anime so much. It's because, you know, all these anime are coming from manga, and like, you know, One Punch Man came out, you know how, maybe 3-4 years ago, a few years ago, and he skyrocketed. My Hero Academia, which is one of my favorite shows, it's great. You know,
I just can't get into it.
No, that's
like,
understandable.
You know, and I get people who like it, and I understand. Like, what I've seen, I understand why people who like it it, but it's just not for me.
Like Attack on Titan, another one that's all these One Piece, which, you know, that's some of these, like, I've never watched One Piece, but I know a lot of people do. But there are countless examples of this. You know, Full Metal Alchemist from, I mean, that's probably about 15 years ago or something like that. But all of these are creative and new characters. And I'm not even mentioning like some of the old manga stuff like Dragon Ball Z or whatever. But these people, they don't have imagination. They lack imagination. Yeah.
So, all right. So back to the episode, closing out on Jordan. Jordan had a really interesting arc this episode because he had Sarah asked him out on a date. She didn't show up. And instead of like getting whiny and mopey and like joining Jonathan and just drowning his sorrows, he stuck true to kind of who they're setting him up to be. And like, he kept his level head. He was cool about it when him and Sarah were talking, like, and she was going over just a fraction of what is happening at home. He's like, no, I get it. Like, you know,
he wasn't passive aggressive.
No, he wasn't at all. And it was so healthy to see. That made the with Tag kidnapping him and beating him as we fade to Superman logo all the more powerful, because like if he had spent the whole episode like whining and pining and being like a twitchy weirdo, like it would not make you worry about like, oh shit, I have to wait until May 13th until this comes back to find out what happens to him. Does he have enough power? Did he get exposed to enough X-Kryptonite?
Yeah,
in Smallville to be able to fend this off.
And that's where a lot of these CW shows go the route of the, that soap opera drama, in the sense of most shows on the CW would have been, he would have gotten an attitude. Right. He would have gotten upset.
They would have zagged instead of doing the right thing and zig. And this time they zigged. And again, I think Todd Helbing has done a really, really good job. So I mean, this episode was directed by Rachel Talalay, and the teleplay was by Brent Fletcher and Nadria Tucker, and then the story was by Todd Helbing. So there's been so much consistency from the writer and the director's chairs of, the teleplays are by certain writers, but the story is by Todd. Or Todd wrote the whole thing. Or, the same director. We've had a couple of, it's only been 5 episodes, but, it hasn't been 5 directors. And I think that's important. And I still haven't bothered to look up to see how many episodes this is.
I think it's 13.
Which is perfect.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I hope that's where they stay. I mean, it's already been picked up for a 2nd season, so hopefully that's 13 episodes as well. Yeah. Okay, so out of Smallville Harvest Festival, chocolate-covered bacons.
Ooh, that sounds good.
I know, right? I'm going to go 3.5 again like last week.
Yeah, I'm going to go the same as what I did last week, 3.25.
Yeah, so good episode. Not great. Serviceable. Has me excited. Like, if this was wrestling, this would be the go-home episode before the big podcast. This is the go-home episode before the hiatus. And I will say CW shows typically do this kind of show well.
Yeah, they do.
I think this one did better than most. And I'm excited to see what happens. I'm really excited with the reveal of Alex and Lois. I
really like that.
That was just really, really good, and something that could have been handled much worse than it was, but they did a really good job with it.
Yeah.
So, all right, let's move on to Bucky and